The biggest Walking Dead secrets. Hey guys, today we're going to talk about the biggest Walking Dead secrets. Let's get right into it. Number 8. Johnny Walker. Johnny Depp made a brief appearance in Season 7. Remember when Rick's group was hired by the Hilltop to clear out the survivors' outpost in exchange for food? Well, right before going about their mission, they needed to bring part of Gregory to prove their worth. Instead, Rick's group salvaged parts from the 3 walkers to serve as a dummy for Gregory, who was still recovering from a bad wound at the Hilltop. One of these walkers' heads was inspired by Johnny Depp himself. The show's producer, Greg Nicotero, claimed that the clay sculpture was inspired by Johnny Depp's head. He later mentioned that Norman Reedus wanted to bring the heads back home with him. Number 7. Little Girl. Remember The Walking Dead's very first scene? Yeah, the one where Rick wanders around an abandoned gas station looking for fuel and possibly some assistance. He notices a small child picking up a teddy bear while looking beneath a car. He quickly gets up and calls out, "Little girl," only to be met by a tiny walker. The actor's name was Addie Miller, and you may have seen her in the Season 8 premiere, where Carl was also looking for gas around the cars. As previously stated, the 100th episode paid homage to the premiere by bringing back the very first walker we ever saw. We recommend revisiting the scene to see how Carl mirrors Rick's actions from Season 1. Number 6. The 2009 Red Dodge Challenger. If you remember the first few episodes of Season 1, you'll remember Glenn driving that sweet-looking, yet annoyingly loud 2009 Red Dodge Charger out of Atlanta and back to their camp. Although the entire group flipped out on him for bringing back an alarming car to their camp, the same car can be seen in Breaking Bad. In the later seasons of Breaking Bad, you'll recall that scene where Walter gets his son the same 2009 Red Dodge Challenger. Walter Jr. pulls into the driveway looking as content as Glenn did as he drove out of Atlanta. Not to mention when Walter's wife Skylar tells him to return the car, she mentions Glenn, the general manager's name. Number 5. Let me ask you something. As previously stated, the first episode of Season 8 featured many nostalgic moments, such as the little girl Walker and Carl impersonating his father in the pilot episode. When Rick confronts Negan with a much smaller force at the sanctuary's gates, Negan questions him, "Let me ask you something, Rick. You think you have the numbers for this fight? You don't." This is a subtle nod to Rick's erratic partner, Shane Walsh, who would say the same thing before committing to his erratic outbreaks. The phrase grew infamous when Shane angrily confronted Herschel about keeping walkers in the barn by asking, "Let me ask you something, a living, breathing person, could they walk away from this?" and then proceeded to gun down the walkers. Number 4. A Rick Grimes enters an establishment. Rick Grimes' transformation is a crucial aspect of The Walking Dead. Those who enjoy character development will enjoy seeing the good old country sheriff transform into a man who ends bad people with a red machete. Back in Season 2, Rick is forced to renounce his previous statement, "We don't end the living," in order to end the 2 men who pulled guns on him in that establishment. If you've seen the most recent episode, Rick gives Morgan his word that they can return to the Hilltop with him if they find themselves in a location captured by a group of saviors. However, when they accept and free him, Rick lies and ends them with Morgan's help. It's interesting to see what the current Rick would have done back in Season 2. Number 3. The Pirate Governor. The Governor, also known as Philip Blake, was one of my favorite characters. He was a tough and unstable megalomaniac with a vendetta against Rick, Mahone, and the rest of the group. His signature eye patch and intimidating persona give him a signature look. The term, "I'm a pirate," refers to the sale of electronic goods. The Governor can be seen lying on a pillow in one scene. At this point, he's been out in the apocalypse too long and is seen with a thick beard, long hair, and, again, is seen wearing his eye patch. On the pillow, however, there is a small parrot behind the Governor's shoulder, giving him a decidedly pirate appearance. Number 2. As if it were the last day on Earth. The first episode of Season 7 was one of the best, but also one of the most heartbreaking. Witnessing the passing of both Abraham and Glenn was hard enough, let alone after a sadistic game of eeny meeny miny mo. Rick meets Simon after being forced down a winding road. Rick walks away after a boastful yet obnoxious exchange between the 2 leaders. Just before he enters the RV, Simon warns him of the possibility of his last day on Earth, or maybe of someone he loves. The scene switches to Abraham's point of view. After Simon waves goodbye, his face can be seen in the rearview mirror. A clear foreshadowing of his later death, and something that made it all the more difficult to swallow. Number 1. Please. On a psychological level, the show gives us a good sense of how people develop in the worst of circumstances, particularly the 5 stages of grief. The 5 stages were clearly demonstrated when Rick broke down in front of Negan after asking him to remove Carl's arm. Rick's eyes show he's in denial. He can't believe what he's forced to do once the hatchet is thrown. It's quite obvious he's angry and frustrated after given the helplessness of the situation he's in, moving in weird ways. That's all for today, and we'll be sure to catch you all in the next one.